Good afternoon. My name is Jorge Romo Jimenez, and today I'll be discussing the theorist Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson was a German-American psychologist, psychoanalyst, and a psychosocial theorist. He looked into psychosocial development of one's identity. He questioned what is identity, and how do we find our own identity? What do we go through throughout life, and at what point do we know our identity? He defined identity as a subjective sense of personal sameness and continuity that's formed through one's personal experiences and encounters. Like Piaget, who discovered 4 stages of cognitive development, Erikson created 8 stages of psychosocial development of identity. Through each stage, a person faces a conflict, and if balanced properly, they will obtain a virtue. These 8 virtues work together to reach a wholeness. His 8 virtues were hope, will, purpose, competency, fidelity, love, care, and wisdom. So throughout life, we can divide it into 8 stages, and there are age frames for each one. I will only be discussing 3 of them due to time constraints. From infancy to 18 months, a child endures trust versus mistrust. They may cry and desire food or to be changed or attentiveness. If the parent responds accordingly, they will develop trust. If a child cries and they have a wet diaper and they're hungry and there's no response, the child will develop mistrust, which may lead to inadequacy or defeat or an inability to need others. If a child is responded to too often, then there will be a dependence that is not necessarily healthy, so there's a balance that is required. Moving forward to the ages of 5 years old to 12 years old, there is an industry versus inferiority, where a child's self-esteem is developed. In this period, you seek approval as you begin to do new skills and show others new talents and complete new tasks independently. You look at your social aspect and you have your peers that give you gratification. If too much gratification or approval is given, you become dependent upon that, and therefore you're incompetent because you cannot work efficiently by yourself. However, if there's too little approval, you begin to doubt yourself and your self-esteem becomes low and you don't feel like you can do it, and therefore you're unable to do it. So from this stage, the virtue that is gained is competency. And as you fast forward throughout your life, toward the end in your last years of 65 and older, you're going to face ego integrity in addition to despair. So you're going to look back on your life and you're going to look at the balance. What have you contributed? What have you given back to the world? Are you happy with yourself? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you have so many regrets that you overwhelmed and you can't even enjoy your last years? If you have had this nice balance throughout the entirety of your life or even obtained it later on, then you're going to have your wholeness and you're going to gain wisdom. If you're unable to say that you're happy with your decisions, you're going to end up in a state of despair. So these stages all build upon each other and they work together to help us determine our identity, which, looking at Erikson's theory, takes our entire lifetime to determine. As he was sitting and creating his theory, he began to look into identity crisis, which is a phrase he coined for the frantic stage in which one struggles to commit to an identity. So you're going to endure things in your life such as divorce, betrayal. You might lose a friend, death of a loved one. You might move or relocate, a new child or new relationship. These are all things that can trigger an identity crisis, and you might not know who you are as a person. And so this phrase triggered individuals to wonder, how do we know who we are? And at what point are we going to endure a crisis? And is this a dysfunctional thing? And it is, if it's not approached properly. So his theory was then expanded upon to have 4 different types of classifications of where a person is with their identity. So you're going to have identity achievement, where you're happy, healthy, and you know who you are. You've committed to that identity. You're going to have a moratorium where you're searching for who you are. You're going to have foreclosure where you've committed without exploration. So therefore you're saying who you are without necessarily looking or caring to find out genuinely who you are. And you're going to have identity diffusion, which is super unhealthy. You have no crisis. However, you have no commitment and you have no purpose in life. These different classifications that expounded upon Erikson's theory led us to the question of what is the intervention? And there is genuinely no intervention to Erikson's model. It's just simply seek balance.